What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Down Unders. Brody, my man, we are back again after, obviously, the last episode we went away to, obviously, Origin. So, Brody, how you feeling? Origin over, the Blues get a really nice win. Talk your shit, my man. Talk your shit. How you feeling after that?
Look, I've had a whole week of talking my shit. It was a great night. Let's put it that way. Look, I'll tell you guys a little story. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit scared to wear my Blues jersey and run my mouth. But I got the Blues jersey out, walking through the stadium. No dramas. It was cold, so I did need my jumper, but I got it off anyway. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll sit, I'll chill. I had a couple of drinks. I didn't want to shoot my mouth off too much until I felt this tap on my shoulder, and it was a big Islander boy, and he goes, I got you, brother. And he was back in the Blues, and I thought, yeah, here we go. I'm going to chat my shit. Ain't nobody going to say nothing now. So straight away, comfy as. It was unreal. It was a killer night, and obviously got the cookies and had a really good time with it.
Bro, it was hectic. Honestly, that was both our first experience, the State of Origin and all that, in a decider. Bro, did it live up or what? Suncorp Stadium, 52,000 people, and it was just hectic. There was even in the last part of the moment of the game, New South Wales chants were going up in Suncorp Stadium, which is unheard of and all that. But even just the vibe in the stadium, how hectic it was there. We saw a fight to our left of us. Yeah. Everything of State of Origin, it really is what everyone says it is, right? What's your thoughts there? Suncorp Stadium, State of Origin, there's no better, right?
Yeah, look, I don't understand how Queenslanders can't even handle 4x goal without, scrapping on. They weren't even on the rums and they were still trying to scrap, handle your piss. Yeah, look, it was good. It was outstanding. It was 67 minutes off the top of my head without a try. And then, just broke open with a bit of a loose ball on the ground. And as soon as you clocked off for a second, the game really did have that feel that if you clocked off, you were going to get burnt. And sure enough, Luai made the most of that. A lazy defensive read there from Jeremiah Nanai, clocking off with the ball hitting the ground. Your job's not done when that ball hits the ground, but you kind of wait for the ref's whistle to a degree, and then you can get burnt by it. And it was quiet in that stadium after Mitch Moses scored that try to basically settle that game. And you got to love Luai waving off the Queensland supporters as they left. So, yeah, it was unreal. To get it done is outstanding.
Bro, how good was it? We were pretty much, if you guys don't know the seats that we were at, we're only a couple rows back from the field, and pretty much Mitchell Moses scored his try, pretty much right in front of us. He was right there. You saw all the Blues get together. You had Angus Crichton just going crazy in front of the crowd. It was just a mental experience. And I can only understand from your point of view as a Blues fan, watching that after the years and years, you know what I mean? There has been success in the last, you had that 2021 series and all that sort of stuff, right? But we're looking back to multiple different series that you guys have been behind due to certain moments in the game. It felt like you won those moments in this game, and it was a change to changing of the guard a little bit, you know what I mean? We've seen multiple occasions where the Maroons get that bounce of the ball, and just because of their hard defense and they find those moments, bang, they crack and just break the hearts of the Blues. Yous did that exact same thing, but at Suncorp Stadium, at the home ground of the Maroons, with 52,000 fans there watching. That's a massive effort, bro. So what's your thoughts on that too? The defensive effort that the Blues put into that matchup. I know they had a lot of their ball and all that, but there was a time where the Maroons was slightly shifting things back in our favor. And usually that's where we crack you guys. I was sitting there going, all right, it's going to happen now. It's going to happen. And it didn't happen for me. That's the big thing. I felt like that was one of the most underrated parts of this whole game is your defense was definitely on point for that game. There was some big moments there from a lot of your boys, cover tackles, just shifting out early. The Hammer had a couple of moments where he probably could have gone down the outside and stuff and would have broken open. But due to the sliding defense and just people covering left, right, and center, that was the most amazing part in this game, in my opinion, from what I saw.
Do you mean you guys didn't get the bounce of the ball or the blow of the whistle? I know you guys rely on 12 men on the field to score some tries, especially this season anyway. But no, definitely. I definitely thought, with the amount of possession we had on your guys' line in that first half, and to not score, I think it was about 25 minutes in, 30 minutes in, We didn't crack you guys. And I was texting, you know, my Blues mates. I was like, we're fucked. You know, like we're probably fucked here because we haven't scored. And it just happens to us all the time where we have all the possession on your guys' line, all the play the balls in the 20, everything. And then, you know, we'll drop it. And sure enough, we dropped it. And then it was a piggyback penalty to you guys. And I said to you, I turned to you and I said, you guys are going to go the length of the field here and score. And it's just going to be gone, like just in that one play. And sure enough, the boys did D up well enough and held you guys to, scoreless, really, if you count tries only. But, you know, I thought Queensland made a bit of a mistake taking the 2 to make it 4-2. You know, with the amount of possession you guys didn't have, when you finally did get some good ball zone, you didn't really set up camp because it was, you know, the fingers up for 2 points, which is really concerning and a strange call from Slater. You know, I'm not knocking Slater or anything like that. You know, the game went how it went. But when you guys didn't have that much possession, you will picked your squad on heavily dominated by attack. And you didn't even give the boys a chance to attack. You know, you said, 2 points. Yep, 2 points. So it was really weird. It was like you guys wanted to back your defense, but you didn't have the engine room to back your defense for 80 minutes. You know, Paddy Carrigan was outstanding, but there was only so much he could do when you got fresh forwards coming at you constantly because the Blues had that bench to actually, you know, filter that through. And then unfortunately, Ponga, you know, he got D'd up on well, but the game was pretty much not gone, but because he only just came on for the first try. So I won't say gone, but, you know, he just had to do the work of the defense of the fresh forwards coming at him with tired forwards around him. So, and they really did D up well when he came on the field. I got to give the Blues that. So we did D up well, but, you know, you guys didn't really give yourselves a chance with matching us for energy through the middle, in my opinion. But that's where I think it went wrong. And taking that 4-2 lead when you guys finally got some possession back in your favor and back down in our ends and play the balls in the 20, and you didn't really let them play. You didn't let Queensland build the confidence. You didn't really ever get to test our line too much. If you look back at the tackles in 20, there wouldn't have been many. It was an outstanding vibe, man. I couldn't ask for a better game to go to for the first Origin. You know, like 52,000 decider, Queensland, 67 minutes of just defense. Great footy.
Oh, it's crazy, bro.
Unreal.
It was honestly like, you know, we're on the edge of our seats. There was moments in the game I was jumping up and like, you know, going crazy in moments, and there was moments you're jumping up and going crazy in moments. Like it felt like just one of those games where we were just like hanging on the edge of something, like something was going to break this game open, and when was it going to happen? And of course, like the man that end up getting the big, you know, Luai's a wanker chant across the whole Suncorp Stadium, and he breaks our hearts right there. Like what's your thoughts on Luai? You know, the steps that he's had throughout his whole career. Like we're talking about a 3-time premiership winner, you know, took Samoa to a World Cup, you know, grand final with Samoa. And then also, you know, having this moment in Origin. He's had moments in the past Origin, but none bigger than that moment right there. It reminded me of like a Munster moment. I know a lot of people have been saying that, but that's usually what Munster would do. Just one of those moments out of nowhere. Like think back to, was it game 1 last year or the year before? I think it was game 1 last year, where Nico Hines had the cover out on the edge there, and just out of nowhere you had Munster bang off a couple of pens, give it to the Hammer just gone. It was one of those moments. Jerome Luai stepped up and became the hero. To a lot of people, like probably weren't liking that, but when he wears that Blues jersey, you got to get behind him and support him. Your thoughts on Jerome Luai, like where he's come from to where he is now, and that big moment that he had to carry New South Wales to a victory there in that contest?
Look, whether people like it or not, you got to actually rate him in probably top 10 5/8 of all time. Already in like, you can say it's the Penrith system that's given him those 3 premierships, but is it? You know, like he's playing just as good without Cleary and making Penrith still stable the ship without Cleary. You know, it's incredible, you know, and he had that big moment, 100%. Mitchell Moses had his big moment as well. And it's great to see, but you're definitely right. There was definitely a Munster or Darren Lockyer break your heart feel to what Luai did there in that moment. So, you know, Lockyer did it to us a few games there where, you know, a stray pass to the ground and he swept through with an intercept. Pulled that try and tried to yell to the crowd, but he couldn't get any words out. I love Lockyer. But no, in all honesty, look, Luai, man, and the biggest test is going to be going to the Tigers. You know, if he could, you know, pull the Tigers around to get them to top 8, top 4, potentially win a grand final before he leaves the Tigers or retires or however long he plans on staying there, man. If he steers that around, look, put some serious respect on Jarome Luai's name, man. If he does that to a team like the Tigers that have struggled for, off the top of my head, the last 8 years, I can't remember the last time the Tigers made the finals.
It's been a long time.
He does that, man, and he turns it around and gets them into final contention and beating the big names and potentially, into a grand final conversation. Man, that's unreal. And, he's doing that without a lot of help. Api Coruscant's there. He's the man. But he hasn't been able to turn it around. So a name like Jarome Luai and the signs he's showing already for the Penrith Panthers without Nathan Cleary through that stint is outstanding for the Tigers. So if he makes the Tigers turn into a top 8 next year and then potentially top 4, top 5, 5-8, man, in my opinion. I know he's going to play halfback next year, but put some respect on his name. And he lives up to the big moments, man. He'll chat his shit. He'll be the villain, but he will back it up.
Yeah, and that's the best, compliment you can ever give someone, you know what I mean? Is when they can talk their shit, but you can back it up. Because a lot of people in those moments, they fall flat in their face. You just know he'll take it there too. He's not the guy that sort of whinges about anything. He just does it, takes it, and he steps up in big moments. But, you made a really good point too. We were speaking about maybe our daily end positions, off camera and that, talking about who could get that 6 jersey and stuff. And you can't really see anyone else. It was really unfortunate. Obviously, he had to take that 7 jersey with the Penrith Panthers, but if that was the throw him off being a daily end 5'8" this year, I'll be fairly disappointed. I still think he should get that role. You probably on the same track there. I feel like he's been the best 5'8" this season for sure, in my opinion. I can't really think of any other names at the top of my head that could compete with him other than Matty Burton. Yeah.
Nickareema's been really well, but Luai deserves that. He hasn't changed his role really, other than he's been, a lot more first receiver. And I know that technically means what a halfback is that first receiver. But to me, Penrith, if they just left him in that 6 jersey, he would be classified as a 5'8", no matter how he's playing. And 100%. He would get 5'8" of the year. He would have had that wrapped up fucking 6 weeks ago, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But now it's, he's going to he's still contesting for halfback of the year, if you want to put it that way. But, I still have Jerome Hughes in front of him. But it's tough. I still think the NRL should give him 5'8" of the year if he plays well, especially for these last 6-7 games with Cleary back, which I'm sure he will. But he deserves that 5'8" of the year already, in my opinion. There's no one close to him. As much as I love Matty Burton, the season he's having, he's not having the influence on the doggies that Luai's having on the Panthers. So I think he deserves that 5'8" of the year. So give the man his cookies.
100%, bro. 100%. And a couple of questions before we jump off our Origin. First of all, with the Blues, obviously Mitchell Moses having a great, series in this one with those 2 games there, being, the first halfback, or being one of 3 halfbacks that have actually won a decider at Suncorp. So that's a massive, massive tick in his box. But Nathan Cleary coming back off injury, doing what he did over the weekend there too. We'll touch on him a little bit later on. But coming into next year, we just spoke all this while we spoke about Jarome Luai. Mitchell Moses was a big factor there with his kicking boot. Obviously, there's a lot of time in between then. Injuries could be a massive factor and all that. But would you stick with the Moses-Luai combination, or would you find some sort of way to have all 3 in the side? What's your thoughts there? Because that's going to be a really tough battle for you guys coming into next year, in my opinion, off the top of my head.
Look, I'm not even going to try and piece it together. You piece together an Origin team a week out and something happens, whether it's an injury, suspension, whatever. So to me, the only thing you could possibly do is Luai to 14 and unfortunately drop maybe, Connor Watson. Luai can happily fill into a bit of a hooker role there. He could be very dangerous around the middle or a long forward role. But, man, I don't think you change what worked this year. And that's the same with, Braden Best and Latrell Mitchell. Who do you pick now? And you're not going to drop Crichton. You're not going to drop, the wingers in Lomax and Toto, who had great seasons. So what do you do? Is Bradnam going to have to miss out, unfortunately? But, that's not fair either. He's played killer in every game he's played.
And off the back of that too, Tommy Turbo, we saw over the weekend having a pretty solid performance. Still not there with his speed or anything. His running game is still lacking a little bit. But if Turbo gets fully healthy again, we know the potential of Tom Trbojevic. He's another name you got to throw up there too. And I feel like that sometimes is the deficit of the Blues, is when you have a lot of these absolute superstars and trying to fill out the sides. But I think we all look at the side that ran out on paper over the weekend and said that was probably one of your better blue sides that have run out in the last how many years? You know, you've had some better names maybe in the the individual category, but as a complete unit, this side came together and looked unbreakable in this game there. Like 14-4, we obviously couldn't score a try against you guys. Like that's a massive, massive tick when we had a team that had KP, you know, Reece Walsh, we had a Hammer, you know, players like that. I know that like in moments they didn't look like they were up to form in that game, but before that game, like everyone would all understand that they have points in them and they were unable to score against you guys. So like, and Zach, as you said, Zach Lomax, I couldn't see him dropping his spot. Like that's the biggest thing coming into next year, but I think injuries and all that will be the biggest factor there too. And my last question before we jump off to this too, bro, is, you know, obviously the big thing around the Queensland is Billy's selection and no Dave Fafita. Do you think Dave Fafita would have changed anything in that game at a Wednesday, or do you think that was just like it is what it like? What was your thoughts on Kate Well's performance first of all before we get into that, and then Dave Fafita?
I guess we'll never know, but 100%, bro. Fafita would have offered something in attack more than Kate Well, in my opinion, and that's not to knock Kate Well. I think he was pretty good defensively. The try wasn't down his edge. He didn't miss, you know, Mitch Moses on his try. I think him and Dearden defended really well. Nothing really came down that right edge, and that's pretty. Oh, you know, Critter went through that one time. I can't remember off the top of my head who let that through. I think that was just good stripping of numbers and compounding sets. You know, Fafita wouldn't have changed anything defensively, but attack-wise, he's just that threat. And he's what Fafita's going to do is not only, you know, bend the line back when he gets the ball, but he's just that defensive threat that as a half, you don't want to slide past him knowing that he's probably going to be that first option as a lead runner. And that's going to create even more space for the Hammer. And that's one of your biggest strike weapons, in my opinion.
100%.
You know, you got your Walsh and all that, but the Hammer is the one. And to be honest, you can make a case for him to play fullback if you had a better center option, but you don't. But yeah, I would have Fafita 100% just for that fact alone that you're going to free up the Hammer on that left edge. And to be honest, the more I look at it now, the reason that Billy didn't pick Fafita this year is because he needed someone that's more defensively sound to protect, you know, the likes of Tommy Dearden. Tommy Dearden's great defensively, but you know, if he had somebody like Dave Fafita inside of him who can be a bit lazy in defense, he's gonna you know, create a bit more opportunity there for the attack. So I think Dave Fafita next year will be back there when you see the likes of Munster back in there, who's going to use you know, the Hammer and Dave Fafita in attack so much to add to his running game, his passing game, his kicking game for those three guys, and it's going to add so much to you guys. So I think Fafita should be there next year 100%. No matter his preseason, he's shown that he bounces back straight away.
And the last one, I know I'm asking a Blues fan this or whatever, but if DC was to hang up the boots, which I don't think he will, I think he would probably go for one more series, to be honest, or however long he goes for. But if he was to hang up his boots and that, obviously we got Sammy Walker, we got Tommy Dearden, we've got Benny Hunt, I guess. Like, which way would you go if you're a Queensland fan? Like, do you think Sam Walker could hold up to the Origin arena? Obviously, he hasn't got the long kicking game. His short kicking game's amazing. Defensively, he's probably his like worst attribute. He's getting better in that area, but still not up to it. Tommy Dearden, I feel like he could become a halfback, in my opinion. I feel like he plays a lot like a halfback, but in a 6 jersey, like he has to run these days. But I think he can become that. But again, like, to step up in that 7 jersey and that, like, what's your thoughts on that? Is there an option for the Maroons other than obviously DC coming into next year?
I think game 1 next year, you guys put Sam Walker in camp and you run with Dearden and Munster in your halves. I think DC's time is up, and I think Benny Hunt's time is up. As good as Ben Hunt was in game 1, he had no impact whatsoever in game 2 or 3. And I think all you're doing is basically benchmarking Harry Grant, who's probably potentially the best 9 in the game, to limit his minutes and try and get so much out of him in a short period, knowing that he's going to have to come off. Whereas Harry Grant looks good when he's on the field for such a long period of time. I know he's always had the 1-2 punch of him and Smith at Melbourne, you know, and then him and Hunt in Origin. But I think, you run Harry Grant at 9, you run KP on the bench, if not have him starting, because I think Reece Walsh needs to do some developing before he potentially gets back in that Origin jersey. But I think you run KP in 14 and then you run 3 forwards on the bench. I don't think what Slater tried to do this year, yeah, it worked well in game one, obviously because of what happened, but that's not going to happen every game. You know, you don't need to run a center and a hooker on a bench. You need a utility like someone like Connor Watson who can play anywhere, and that could be KP.
Yeah.
You know, he could fill in at 9 a bit if whatever reason
Had to.
You know, Harry Grant went down. But in that case, when you've got someone like Tommy Dearden and Cam Munster, you know, you push Dearden to 9. He can defend well enough through the middle, in my opinion, and he would make a pretty good 9. He's got a good pass off him. And then KP fills into that half roll off the bench. You know, that gives you that more flexibility. Your engine room's not working as much. Yes, they play big minutes for club, you know, Paddy, Cotter, but it just showed that the freshness of, you know, Spencer Linu coming on and Ozayo coming on, we just trumped you guys in the middle. And yes, you do. They do play 80 minutes, and you know, Gerbo can play 80 minutes, Haas can play 80 minutes, but you don't need to, especially at an Origin level where it's like make or break. If you're off for a single second, you're gone. In club footy, that doesn't matter because, you know, momentum's going to keep switching with penalties. But for Queensland, I think that's the way to go, in my opinion. I think Sam Walker is in camp next year, at least for the start of game one. See how that goes. It's in Brisbane. No stress to run Dearden and Munster in your halves to start and have Sam Walker in camp. And then depending how game one goes, you potentially bring in Sam Walker for game two. But I think Tommy Dearden deserves all the credit. He's been better this series, in my opinion, than Daly Cherry Evans across the whole 3 games. So
I agree, bro. That defensive effort he put on the weekend, he caused like two or three massive errors from Liam Martin. And Liam Martin was definitely a guy that we need to slow down. Like, we saw that in game 2. He was the start of like the avalanche of points. You know, the Mitchell Moses short ball was to Liam Martin that started the points brigade that from the Blues and stuff. And we had to set the tone there on a certain guy that had, you know, he bullied us in game 2. Like, he was fucking incredible putting hits on left, right, and center. It was cool to see that, you know, Tommy Dearden being a smaller body and really taking it to him the way he did, like a really, really big effort. And it just shows, like, that's why, like, I'm incredibly proud of the side that ran out there. And I just say that you beat us on the night. Like, you are just a better team on the night, but like incredibly proud. Like, both the sides should be proud because that was an amazing contest overall. And like, just the Blues, bro, like incredible performance to do what you guys did, even though like over the years, as I keep saying, there's been moments where we played exactly like what you played over the weekends where like, you know, those big moments, we just take them and we break hearts, and you did the exact same thing against us. So that's like the biggest full credit to us before that. Anything more you want to jump on before we get into our team of the series, my brother?
But yeah, I got a question for you as a Queensland fan. Do you honestly think potential, if there wasn't a sim bin in game 1 or send off, do you think it would have been a clean sweep?
I still hang on my hat. I still think that we might win that game. I just think that early part, we cracked you really early. The first try to us, it looked like it came off some really nice play of Harry Grant, DC at the back of Nanai. And then we were going to strip you on that left side edge anyway with the hammer. The hammer ended up blowing that try at the end of that one. So, as I said, I felt like the game plan read itself. I felt like you guys it's hard to say because like obviously that 12-man really takes away my point there, as in like, because you looked incredible when he went down to 12 and you had to stick together. But we've seen times to sit like, you know, multiple like years, like with the Warriors going up against the Sharkies. Remember that, like, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. We weren't that great, right? It was COVID year and that, but the Sharkies held together in that 12 men, end up beating the Warriors on that night when they were up 13-12. Like, sometimes you can have your better moments when you're getting put on the back foot like that. And I think he's used that to elevate yourselves throughout the whole series, right? But I like, as a Maroons fan, I still want to hang my hat on as like, I still think that we'll take that game one. It would have been it would have been close, closer than what it actually ended up being. But I still think that we could have took that. But like, I wouldn't be too far. I wouldn't push against like any Blues fan thinking that they could have gone a clean sweep, because I can't say that wouldn't have happened either. You know what I mean? Like, we went ahead 6-0. But as soon as it went to 12 men, you guys looked like you dominated a lot of field position, a lot of big moments in that game after that too. So, yeah, it was just one of those games you can't really take it away, because our best attacking threat to start that game of Reece Walsh end up going out of that game. You know, he created a couple of big overlaps to start that game before he got knocked out. And like, you guys obviously went down to 12 men. So how would I know that Joseph Suoliti after that game could have scored a double, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those sort of games, but I hang my hat on. I still think we would have won that game. It would have been a 2-1 series, but I'm not going to push against any New South Wales fan that thinks they could have gone a clean sweep in that series, and that could have definitely push that away. So, yeah, what's your
The
thoughts,
only
though?
reason-
What do you reckon?
Yeah, the only reason I think that it potentially could have been a clean sweep, I know you got that early try, and that makes me lean against thinking that it would have been a clean sweep. You guys had the momentum already, as you're right. You know, you had that try, then that clean line break through Sewer just wasn't completed. But I think that if, you know, Walsh doesn't get taken out, Sully doesn't get sent off, I think we would have dominated Cobbo through the middle, and it would have showed when we brung those subs on, and that it would have just been pretty much like game 3 was, where it was just a build. I know you got that early try, so that makes me think different. But I definitely think it could have been a clean sweep just with that simple fact that once those subs came on, like the impact that Spencer still had when it was 13 versus 12, let alone if it was 13 on 13, and you didn't get those 2 easy tries straight after the sin bin that the Hammer got. I think that it becomes an arm wrestle again, and I think we take it with, you know, the bench coming on. But I do see you guys potentially holding on because you already did crack us early, whereas in game 3 you didn't. So, you know, that is a bit of a flip of the coin. I'd say 60-40 to the Queensland way, that it could have been a clean sweep if there wasn't a send-off. But I guess it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it didn't dampen the series, and the better team did win. And my last question to you is, what do you think the series is going to look like next year when you guys get your big bodies of Tino, Gilbert, and potentially Tommy Flegler if he comes back, or back into that rotation? Who do you think those 3 come in for? Because those 3 definitely don't miss the team if they're fit. So who do you think gets dropped out for those 3? And obviously potentially David Fafita.
Yeah, so I would have Dave Fafita back in that lineup. Like, in my opinion, I think that was a misstep from Billy. Like, I love what Capewell did in that series, but I don't think we can have Capewell back in there next year unless he has a blinder for the Warriors at the end of this year. It really shows out. But even then, I feel like that we probably need to go back with Tino Fa'asul Malawi. Probably comes in for one of those boys there too. Who else do we run on that bench? Kafusi. I would probably have Tino over Kafusi there. You know what I mean? So like that equals it out there too. I'd probably push Jeremiah Nenai onto the bench like we did in that 3rd game, and then have Cotto maybe start on the edge there too anyway. So that doesn't really change anything, but that frees up that. So I'd keep Nenai on the bench. Fuck, that makes it really tough actually. If I'm thinking off the top of my head, KP would probably go to 14 as we were touching on before. I do think that Ben Hunt, Harry Grant combination probably has run its course now. And we probably look at it a different way. I like even other names are like Corey Horsburgh if he gets back in the discussion, or like I love Big Red.
Hopgood over Horsburgh. Yeah. But for me, I guess I'd run Cotter up front with Tino. I'd run Harry Grant starting 9. I'd run Nanai.
Collins look good off the bench too. Collins look good off the bench.
Collins off the bench. I'd run Paddy at lock, you know, for Fafita and Nanai up front. On back
on
row.
The edge.
And then on the bench, I'd go, Flegler. If not Flegler, start and bring Cotter off the bench. And then run Gilbert on the bench with Ponga, Cotter. We'll say Cotter, Ponga, Gilbert, and
Mo. Would you keep Mo?
Collins.
Collins.
Yeah.
Collins
so there's
on
your
the bench,
bench, in my opinion, and you run Flegler and Tino to start. Flegler and Tino to start. Matching, you know, Gerbo and Payne.
Pass.
You guys almost come over the top of us in that matchup, in my opinion. So it makes it a lot, you know, better. And then, you know, you bring on Collins, who's not your Spencer Linu type, but he's going to match that energy to bring a lot for all you guys. His cover defense is outstanding. You know, he doesn't bend the line or anything in attack, but effort-wise, he's there. And then, you know, you can match that with Gilbert off the bench, bro. He's another one that brings a lot of energy. So
he's a freak. I miss Gilbert. But also, before we jump off into our, you know, team of the series and that, would you look at no Gerbo next year and Yo at the front? Like, I know Gerbo is your captain and like all that, but Gerbo brought that much for the captaincy, like as in like, you know, being around the squad and that you would keep him obviously in that front row spot.
Gerbo's a footballer, bro. He could be like Cotter, but he didn't need to play the big minutes. He's another Cotter. He's your cut and mold of Ruben Cotter. But we didn't need him to play the big minutes because we had that backing on the bench. So, you know, he's there to take the shot that he took. He's there to take that while you guys are fresh, because he's going to bounce up. He's not going to get injured from something like that. Whereas, you know, if you risk someone like Spencer on a tackle like that where you guys are fresh, he's probably going to potentially get injured. Whereas Gerbo, bro, he's built to take that contact. He's built to take your guys' energy from the hit-ups in that first 10, 15 minutes. And then his job's done. If he comes back on, he comes back on. You know, he could play 80 at Clubland, but he doesn't need to when we've got the bench there. I'm sure if, you know, New South Wales ran with the 2 backs or a hooker and a back on the bench, he would play bigger minutes. But with the team that was selected, he didn't need to. You know, he did his job. And I think he'll be there again next year, 100%.
No, I love that thought because I've just seen a lot of questions about Gerbo in like, you know, even like New South Wales fans even questioning him about saying like, you know, whether he'd be there next year. And I know a lot of people are liking Yo as that front row look now, due to I've seen, you know, Denny Kemp come out and say about it. And a lot of people have jumped off the back of that and saying, yeah, 100%. But I feel like, you know, that's exactly what I want to get from you is like, what does Gerbo make you feel? What do you notice from Gerbo? And like, you know, the captaincy, like the experience he brings to that squad, he's just the perfect leader that you have in your squad. Like you would definitely prefer to have him there, whether he's there for 25, 10, 15, whatever it is. But Gerbo there means more than no Gerbo. Is that correct?
100%. Anyone that thinks Gerbo doesn't deserve to be there is a casual that only watches Origin. They don't watch what he does at Clubland to be selected in the first place. And yes, I do love Isaiah Yo in that front role, but I only love Isaiah Yo in that front role when he's rotated off the bench. If he played just solely that front role starting, you know, he could handle that 100%, but he's not going to have the impact and tackles that he has compared to when he's coming off the bench. You know, Gerbo, he wins those tackles. Not only does he not miss a tackle, he wins the tackles and really slows down that ruck. That's what he brings through the middle for the Blues.
100%.
And that's why Madge put him captain. You know, and clearly everybody follows him and listens to him. You've seen the Blues players cheering him when he went up there to collect the shield. It's unreal, man, what he brings. And the confidence you would have defending next to someone like Jake Trbojevic is outstanding, man. Like, if you were defending next to that guy, man, he would make you want to work. He shouldn't be a footballer. He shouldn't be playing in a role. Look at his build. Man, like, he's got a talented brother that, you know, probably shits all over him when it comes to, like, skill-wise, but he's just
looks like
hard
a goddess.
Work, man. It's hard work. He don't look like a goddess, bro. He definitely doesn't look good.
He's a Down syndrome goddess. That's what he looks like.
In all honesty, bro, like, he's worked hard to be where he is, and he's reaping the rewards for it. And I guarantee you, he will still be picked in Australia for the sole effort that Jake Trbojevic puts in, week out. So he won't do all the flashy things, but pick him, bro. Honestly, he won't be dropped, in my opinion.
Bro, I cannot wait to talk to you about the Australian squad towards the end of the year. And I think this Australian squad that's coming up will actually open up a lot of opportunities for other nations as well. You know, I think last year we had Jeremiah Nenai and players like that. I think with the emergence of, you know, Angus Crichton come back to form and all that, may push Jeremiah Nenai to play for Samoa and may strengthen Samoa as well. And they got their test later on this year. But I can't wait to talk to you about that with like Down Unders guys. So, you know, continue to stay around. We've got some more stuff we're going to be bringing to you guys in the future. But before we jump off State of Origin, brother, we both done our teams of the series. So basically the way this is going, guys, it's pretty much like a combined 13 of the best players for the series. Brodie's actually you got 14, don't you? Because you want to obviously name someone there too. But go through your 14 first, my bro, and then I'll play off the back of that.
Right, if you go into NRL.com, you just look up the Blues team, and that's pretty much it. No, in all seriousness, though, it's Dylan Edwards, Brian Toto. I put the hammer in there only because, you know, Best played one game, Latrell played one game, and Saul Lee played one game. You know, I can't really pick, you know, Best or Latrell over the hammer, who was good across the first 2 games. Then I had Lomax and Critter, obviously. Sorry, Critter and then Lomax. It's Lua and Moses, Payne Haas. I went Reece Robson. You know, Ben Hunt played outstanding in game 1, but he didn't do anything game 2, game 3. Harry Grant, for me, is missing the mark compared to what the hype is around him. Even this season alone for Melbourne has not been all that Harry Grant was promised and is been in the past. So I had to go Reece Robson on being the winning team alone. You know, he had help from Connor Watson in the last 2 games, but game 1, he was 80 minutes. And then I had Isaiah Yo up front. With that said, you know, like, I'm obviously not going to backtrack on what I just said about Gerbo, but if you're talking about performance-wise as a whole and the numbers and everything like that and the minutes, Isaiah Yo, yes. But if I was picking a 17-man squad, I'd still pick Gerbo on that 10 and Yo on the bench. But this is 13 off performance based alone. Then I had Angus Crichton, Liam Martin, And then the other Queenslander that snuck in there for me was Paddy Carrigan. It was kind of hard. Obviously, Cam Murray was outstanding in the 2 games that he played, but I'm pretty sure he bounced from lock to second row, a bit through the middle. And then my 14th was Spencer Lenu.
You have to talk
what
about
can you
him,
say,
mate.
What can you say about him? Yeah, it's, he offered so much in all 3 games. It's outstanding, and you would not want to be in front of him off a kickoff or a dropout. And Harry Grant preached to that.
Yeah, bro. Shout out to Harry Grant for putting his body in front, bro. Like, it was an incredible effort from him. So for myself, bro,
the board skirted it, bro. He was the only one that was there. Like, the rest of them were like, oh, nah.
I would say, bro. I was like, oh, no way, bro. All right, my bro. Mine's fairly similar, bro. Honestly, I got Edwards out back. I've got Toto and Lomax as my wingers. Hammer and Critter as my centers. Very similar to you. I think the Hammer's been one of our better, players throughout the series overall. Like, talk about the 2 games, obviously scoring a lot of tries there. Just been amazing when he's been put in that position there too. I went Jerome Luai and Mitchell Moses. I had to go those 2. Throughout the series, Jerome Luai, bro, his stepped up and he's been amazing. We spoke about him in nauseum before. Payne Haas and Spencer Lenu up top, because again, like as we I touched on the back room, what you just kind of touched on with Isaiah Yo, I kind of just wanted to go to 13 because I wanted to pick on performances. It's not so much of like a team I want to run out there with. It's more on like who played the best in certain positions. And Spencer came on as a prop, and I felt like he was one of the most damaging props that was out there in Origin this year. 100%. He was incredible. 100%, bro. And I agree with you. Reece Robson was the better 9 in the series this year. I think for all 3 games, he was probably the most unsung hero in the Blues camp there too. Like, I felt like game 1, he was one of your best players. Of course, like, defensively, he was incredible. Game 2, just because of all the attacking flair with everyone else out there, like, I thought his defense was still up to scratch. He was incredible there too. And in game 3, bro, just worked his ass off in the middle there with the Maroon side that wanted to go out there and prove themselves after, being bullied in that. He stepped up in the middle like all those Blues forwards did in that game there too. So shout out to Reece Robson. I got Angus Crichton, bro. Gus Bus. I had to go him, bro. Like, on the edge. I think we did our top 5 edge back rolls in a competition right now, and he's probably the best back row in the competition right now, bro. Like, he's incredible. Liam Martin right up there as well. Probably the 1-2, probably best edge back rolls in the competition right now. And Paddy Carrigan, bro, is my 13 because this man, bro, like when we look at it, probably an Australian squad at the end of the year, I think he's definitely got to be the 13 for the Australian squad. And then Cam Murray and Yo, you could probably go Yoey off the bench, Yoey at front. I'm not too sure how you want to really deal with that. And then probably have, Cam Murray maybe coming in on the edge. This is what I was talking about before. Like, you're pushing out a lot of people that were at that spot there for the Australian jersey last year that could go to different nations. So, Cam Murray being back there, I'm really excited to see what this Australian squad looks like at the end of the year. I think it's going to be absolutely incredible. But they're my 13 there, bro. Edwards, Toto, Hammer, Critter, Lomax, Luai, Moses, Haas, Robson, Lenu, Gus Bus, Liam Martin, and Paddy Carrigan. I think that's only an incredible side.
Yeah, it's only one difference.
Yeah, and it's only because you put Spencer Lenu on the bench and that, and I think Isaiah Yo has definitely got to be spoken about there too. So, also, shout out to Mitch Barnett, our boy, Mitchy Barney. Yeah. Right, incredible, man. Incredible.
The question there, who is the most hyped and didn't deliver? For me, it's Reece Walsh. It's pretty simple that, Reece Walsh didn't deliver in Origin. Obviously, he's still getting over the knockout in round 1. Which is understandable. But, there's so much hype around him and it's not his fault. He plays on it. He knows where the cameras are and he wants that hype. But by all means, you do that. You got to have a life after footy as well. And he's trying to obviously set himself up for that. But, he's got the most hype on him and he didn't deliver at the Origin. And I did say to Ash during the game, what would your thoughts be next year if KP's fit for game 1? Would you potentially drop Reece Walsh and play Ponga starting fullback? Because, yes, Reece Walsh is outstanding. He's so flashy. He's still so young. He's got so much to learn. And I really think his body and his niggles and his contact, it wasn't up to Origin standard. You got Dylan Edwards standing the other end from you, running 200 meters, having 24 carries, charging into the teeth of the front row of Queensland, getting the set started. And you got Walsh where he was sliding into the defensive line because he didn't want to be hit. You know, and then he was getting up, holding niggles, and you know, holding his neck and holding his knee and limping around, and it was really a cat performance in Game 3, in my opinion. And he might have been carrying an injury. He was really bandaged up in the Broncos game on the weekend. I did see that. And that's
hip
not
flexor, bro.
on him. You know, I'm not being a hater. You know, he's obviously doing a lot better than I am. I'm not going to be that guy that's be like, I could do a better job. But if you're talking about who was the most hyped, you know, for me, it was Reece Walsh. He's got so much to learn, and I'm sure he'll learn it. I think he's outstanding. He's definitely a top 10 fullback. But you know, he's 22, man. We can't put that much hype on him and expect him to deliver every week. But yeah, for me, he was a bit disappointing. I think he mightn't be that Origin mold, in my opinion. You know, like Ryan Pappenhausen is a spitting image of Reece Walsh for me. You know, he's so flash, he's so good, but I don't think he would handle the Origin duties of a fullback like Dylan Edwards, Teddy. You know, Ponga even puts himself into defensive line and has those tough carries. You know, he's paid the price by getting knocked out a lot. But yeah, look, there's so many arguments you can have there, and it depends what you want to go with. But I think, you know, with the hammer out wide, if you don't put the hammer at fullback, I think maybe you go Ponga and just let Reece Walsh develop a little bit more. You know, he's got to find that sweet spot between flashy and just the consistent play. You know, the steady, safe play. It's all or nothing sometimes with Reece Walsh, and it came up nothing in Origin. So, what's your opinion though on that?
Yeah, like I'd probably agree that he was probably the most disappointing, as in like the hype that came into him in Game 3 was like, you know, I even was like, you know, in Game 3 he's just got these moments in him that he can break open Origin. Like the only thing I'll push back on is like I think he can be made for Origin, because we've seen players like Billy Slater made for Origin, and him and Billy are such similar players, bro. Like when they first came into Origin, Billy had a massive moment in his first series there, but other than that, he went quiet. You know, Carmichael Hunt came in and filled in his spot for a couple of years there. He took a while to get back into Origin. That's why I kind of do agree with you to where the point of like maybe he does need time to go back and work on his game before he gets back into Origin again, because that was probably the best thing that happened for Billy Slater's career. You know what I mean? And when Billy had to get back into it, bro, he came off the bench at 14 in moments, I'm pretty sure off memory, and then he finally got the crack at that 14 jersey, and he took it. Like he became one of the best, if not the best fullback of all time. Walsh has that same potential out of him. He just needs to work on his game a little bit more. And I completely agree with you. It's just the amount of hype we put on these young players these days, and like just the, you know, because of social media and that, everyone wants to find the superstar, the next era, the next guy, until they become so great. And then you just say they're not like that, like Nathan Cleary, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
he needs time. You know, that's the biggest thing. He's incredible. He's such an incredible talent for his age. And I still believe he's definitely the fullback for Queensland in the future. Whether he takes a series off or a couple of series off and, like, you know, works on his game a little bit, that's really up to Billy. In my opinion, I would still keep him there because I do believe that he'll take some notes after the series and be better. That's just my opinion on it. But again, like, you know, if he was to get dropped, I can see a very similar thing to what Billy Slater did in his past years, where he's going to get back to the notepad, figure out what he's done wrong, which is he's still got a lot to learn. We saw Adam Reynolds come out and said that he needs to settle down a little bit. He thinks he can attack on every play, and that's the one thing he needs to learn because he's still so young, so energetic. These are the moments he needs to learn. And I agree with you on that point, but I would say that I still think he's an Origin player. I still think he's a Queensland fullback. It just will take time before he'll be that player that really puts his foot on Origin and say, I'm the guy. Like, it's a lot easier for Dylan Edwards due to being that sort of player. Like, he's always been that high work rate fullback. Like, Reece's a high work rate in attacking situations, never really been a player that will get you 150, 200 a game. You know, Teddy will always get you that. You know, Dylan Edwards will always get you that in stat sheet. Like, KP's very similar to Reece. He'll get you probably 100, but he'll get you 3 try assists off the back of that. I think there's just the moments here that Reece needs to learn, and probably defensively is the only other area that I'll give to Reece that he needs to step on a little bit, because there's been a couple of moments he got caught out a little bit in Origin as well. You know, that Mitchell Moses try, he probably could have got there to a better position to really try and stop Mitchell Moses in that situation. I know everything moved really quickly, but that was that moment. You know, even though there was a kicking option with the Blues, they've really kicked him out of position as well. So that's just my thoughts, bro. Do you kind of agree with that sort of take a little bit, or?
Yeah, I do 100%. Like 100% think he could be great at Origin, and I think he's spot on. If you're trying to time with him with Billy, Billy did the same thing. You know, he was flashy, we had everything there, but you know, he wasn't quite ready for Origin. And I think that
Nah.
might be the same situation with Walsh, and he kind of was forced into it last year with Ponga being injured for the whole Origin series. That's why I think if Ponga's fit the start of next year, it might open up the door to Reece Walsh just focus on the Broncos, man. Try and win them a grand final, take that confidence, learn what you can, and then come back. You got so much time for Origin down the line.
100%.
And, the Hammer, potentially you could move to fullback. But as I said, you don't really have great center options. But if you had, the center options that the Blues have, the Hammer could be outstanding at fullback as well, man. He's balanced and speed. He just creates havoc. And, it's not just the meters, like the off-the-ruck carry that I want to see from Reece Walsh. I want to see him bring the ball back with a 10 on the kick returns. That's what I mainly mean by he was lacking with the work.
Yeah.
Like, he would look to pass it, and that's fine. You want to protect himself and not get hit. And maybe that was the instructions that he had from Billy, like, don't take those up. Maybe he got that call. We'll never know what happens behind the doors, but I want to see him bring that ball back with intent, and that's where the Hammer racks up 200 meters a game for the Dolphins, because he catches that ball and he's sprinting back the line to get that 20, 30 meters back at the line. So just little things like that I want to see from Reece. And I'm sure he'll develop on it. As I said, he's 22. He's been in NRL properly for 2-3 years now.
Yeah, exactly.
The pressure on him, and, he probably brings it on himself, and he loves the pressure as well, but I'm not going to sit here and hate on someone that's doing so well at such a young age, and he'll go down as probably, potentially one of the top 10 fullbacks of all time. So he's got a lot to learn, but for me, I think if you've got a fit squad, everything goes right. I think you leave him out of Origin next year just to run with, KP and the Hammer and the centers there, and see how that goes. I think he's got so much to learn. So we'll see.
100%, bro. And I think it's like we got the ability to do that too. And that's a plus in our boat as well. Like we have the ability to put someone like KP at fullback and allow Reece to really grow his game if it was to go that way. Or as you touched on before, if we do need the guy to come off the bench as 14, like maybe Reece goes back to 14 because he can play. He's got that kicking boot on him. Probably more so I want to see him at fullback there too, because KP can cover multiple positions as well. But he could do that. You know what I mean? That's the whole thing, is like we could ease him into Origin probably a little bit better now. With everything we've seen in the series, the amount of pressure he took, obviously caught the big head knock with Joseph Suoli'i in this series, and before that, just this season, he's had a lot of growing to do, because he caught the head knock with Taylor May, and because teams have got to try and shut him down as early as possible, you had defenders rushing up as quickly as possible, and that's where his errors seem to be coming now, and he needs to learn this thing. He needs to learn to take contact better. He needs to learn to do these little things to get better as a fullback, and he as you said before, bro, he's got the potential to be a top 10 fullback of all time if he wants to get there. So that's really up to him if he wants to put the notepad in, like, get the notes down and just get better from these sort of moments here. But yeah, that's a really good chat there. Really good chat. I saw a really cool comment here too. Luke Metcalf saying that he's dying to make Origin one day, but I won't say about Luke Metcalf. You've seen our Warriors squad, right? I'll probably just, play on the back of that. Would you see any of our Warriors maybe having an opportunity in Origin in the future? We've had 2 now, which is probably the most that we've had since Ryan Hoffman and Jacob Lilliman, both in the simultaneous series back in the day. Your thoughts on, like, is Luke Metcalf maybe an option later in the future? Would he have the opportunity? Do you reckon there's anyone else in that, Warriors squad that could have the ability to play there in the future? I know there's a lot of Kiwis in that squad, but there's a couple of New South Wales guys like Dylan Walker. I know he's probably a little bit over the hill, but he could have filled in that 14 role in the future. Your thoughts?
Oh, why not? It shouldn't matter what club you play for. Dylan Walker has played for the Blues before. I know he wasn't at the Warriors when he did, but yeah, why not? Why does it matter if they play for the Warriors or not? If they're eligible to play for Queensland or New South Wales, and if they're in form, by all means, it goes on form. It goes on what you bring to a team. And Barnett, 2-3 years ago, you would have said, this motherfucker's never playing Origin. But, he's gone back and rebuilt himself, rebuilt his game, and it's all on effort and hard work, and that's what Origin is. So, look, if Metcalf can, string together a few good seasons and stay fit, by all means, man, why not? He's got the ability in what he's shown in such his young career so far. By all means, I think he could fucking kill the Origin arena with his speed.
Yeah, his speed would be different level. And also saw a question that he was in, I think it was on Running It Straight on SENZ, and that they spoke to him live, and they asked him a question: you versus Reece Walsh in a foot race, who would you have in that foot race? Luke Metcalf or Reece Walsh?
Over 30? Oh, over 30 would be so interesting. Over 30?
Yeah.
100%. And then I haven't really seen Metcalf over 100, so it's hard for me to say. I've seen Walshy over 100.
Lukey chased him down from memory. Remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah. So yeah, look, but it's hard to tell as well. You know, you got to worry about other defenders when you got the ball, whereas when you're the defender, you're solely just trying to track down that player. So it's tough. If they were like side by side, 100, man, it would be a meter or two in it, in my opinion. But over 30, that's an outstanding foot race.
Bro, that would be an incredible foot race. And, you know, even while touching on that, bro, like some of the greatest athletes that you've probably seen of all time, give us some names. Give us some names of like incredible athletes that you've seen in the NRL era. It doesn't have to be like, you know, a list or anything, just any name that you got off the top of your head.
The Hammer, bro, for sure. Just his balance, his speed, his stiff arm. It could be great for NFL, man, if he ever wanted to tiptoe into that. As a running back, man, his balance, his speed, the way he hits a hole, outstanding. You know, Tony Williams, you know, he was a freak,
bro.
Yeah, he potentially could have been something so much better if he had a bit more heart, but unfortunately the gym doesn't build your heart. So, you know, Paul Gallen, you can't knock his credit. You know, he's probably the shortest man. He was probably always bullied at school for being short. And look at what he did at Origin. You know, I know he didn't win too many series, but Origin, Cronulla, and then what he went to do in boxing. You know, there's an athlete, you know, Payne Haas. And then you got athletes for different reasons. You know, you got Lomax, who's so good in the air. Remember that high jumper that played for Melbourne? What was his name? Matt Duffy? Not Duffy.
Was it Matt Duffy? It was not Steve. It might have been Matt Duffy. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Never should have been a rugby league player, but all he had to do was just you kick to him and you're away, man. Like Melbourne, it was just a hack, you know. And then Israel Folau was the same.
Israel Folau, bro.
Who was the other one? The Fijian flyer that they had.
Bro, Vunivalu.
Vunivalu, yeah, he's another one. Yeah,
Korobidi as well. Bro, Semi Radradra is another one.
Yeah.
A freak of nature. Jason Saba, I got to have Jason Saba up there at the moment, bro. His speed for his height and that, like he's definitely got ability. And one I threw up in the backstage, because we were talking about this in the backstage, Dave Taylor, brother, Dave Taylor. Any man that could like throw away that many pies and that many sausage rolls and still run out there and play like a halfback.
In the dressing room as well.
Right? What a freak of nature. Jazzy wants to say Cameron Smith, the accountant. He's definitely not the greatest athlete of all time, Jazzy.
Yeah, look, he's an office bitch, put it that way.
There's so many good ones. Jason Tamalolo. I always bring up this comp, like, you know, Zion Williamson with the NBA. This is like how good Zion Williamson is. Same weight as Jason Tamalolo, you know, taller than Jason Tamalolo and can dunk. I think that's incredible for Zion Williamson. But Jason Tamalolo in his prime, bro, he was a fucking freak of nature. And Andrew Fafita in his prime. Like, we've seen so many crazy athletes in the sport, man. Like Nathan Blacklock back in the day for the, you know, the winger that used to just score all left, right, and center. Chock Mundine. Like
Sam Cassiano, bro, he was an athlete.
Bro, Frank Pritchard. Fui moi moi.
Bro, Matt Utai, bro, like it doesn't end. You can make an argument for a lot of these guys that, you know, never should have been playing rugby league, but they just defied the odds and built their game, and they were so good at one in particular thing, or they were good at everything, and they shouldn't have been, you know. Like Dave Taylor had a kicking and a passing game for such a big body. So much speed off the mark too. Like, you know, those guys like that just, they shouldn't have it, but they just do. It's just natural.
Freaks and natures, bro. Unreal, unreal. All right, we'll quickly touch on the news around the league before we jump into our overall overrated, underrated, fairly rated, and then we'll finish it off with our tips for this weekend, my brother. So obviously the big news around the league currently right now, I want to touch on the West Tigers because unfortunately they just always seem to be news, and I feel for them, like, you know, always touching on them and that, but I want to get your thoughts on like John Bateman ending the year in Super League now. That is confirmed. He's going to go away as Super League for the end of the year. They reckon he will return, but that is so weird for someone to leave the... Like, if he's healthy and ready to play, why are they not playing him? Why is he not in that squad? What's your thoughts there?
I think John Bateman is a very individual player, and I think that for what the Tigers are building, they don't need that. So I think that's a good move for the Tigers to let him go. Look, he's got talent, but like I said, it's individual talent. He's not rolling up his sleeves and doing what's best for the team, like your Liam Martins. So I think that's a good move for the Tigers to let him go, free up the cap to invest into their juniors.
Do you reckon, so they said that he'll come back in 2025. Do you reckon this is all just smoke and mirror? He's not going to come back?
I don't understand why, like you said. Why you'll let him go when your team's losing and potentially need him. And then just to bring him back next year, like that doesn't make sense. I think you'll just let him go and stay gone.
Yeah. And then other one on top of the back of that too, like, you know, Stefano Otikamanu. So there's all this news coming out now, like the Melbourne Storm seem to be the big name out there that he would probably go to Melbourne. The Doggies have been a last minute little, they throw their hat in the ring there. Stefano Otikamanu, is he worth the hype? Would you want him at the Dogs? Those sort of chats. Like, what's your thought on Stefano? Where do you think he'll go next year?
For the Dogs, depending how much we pay for him, I wouldn't mind because we are lacking a big body in the middle to eat up some meters. But for what I'm hearing that he's asking for, nah, it's like a Timu Payne Haas, in my opinion. You know, the same build, same height, but you know he's not delivering what Payne Haas delivers. So, and he's young. Again, he's young. You know, he should go to a system maybe like the Panthers, maybe like the Roosters, maybe like Melbourne, to build. I think he should look at one of those clubs, and I think he needs to potentially lower what he's asking for, or if he's wanting that much money, maybe go have a stint in Super League, because I don't think anyone should pay that 700-800K that I think he's roughly asking for, because he's not delivering. You know, you haven't proven nothing yet. So what about you? What do you think? Would you take him at the Warriors for 800K?
Nah, I don't think he's worth that money at the moment, and it's crazy that they're throwing these numbers around. I reckon like a good 500-600 maybe. Like the 800 just seems like that's starting to get up to what we're probably paying for. Like, I think ads is up there $1 million at the moment there, but like thinking of like Joe Tarpanese, I don't think Joe Tarpanese on around that range, and I'd have Joe Tarpanese in a heartbeat over him. Like, would you say, like, I'll give you a scale there too. Would you say that, because this is my other comp to him at the moment, and just a guy with like no hype overall comparatively to Stefano, is he closer to Tinella Paseka than he is to Payne Haas? Would you reckon?
100%.
Yeah.
Paseka's a big body, and he gets through work. Like, if you pair those two up, their numbers are probably similar. But Stefano's asking for this much money, whereas Paseka's, doing his job. For the money that they're on, he's performing for you, Paseka, whereas Stefano's not.
Yeah.
So,
and like they both have those moments where like they look like they're going to be incredible, but then they have these moments where they're really inconsistent again and they really fall off the pace. And like Stefano's full of that at the moment. Like, I think he's going to be incredible when he goes to the Melbourne Storm, and they'll probably get the best out of him, or even in your system at the moment with the system like that, the West Tigers could be holding him back. But from what we've seen at the West Tigers, what we're going off there, like, I just haven't seen it yet to be like he's an 800K front rower, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, neither. I completely agree. Another one that is similar to like the likes of is Royce Hunt. Royce Hunt delivers, for the Sharks in his stints. And again, Stefano's not. These are guys that I probably would look at buying over Stefano when you're looking at price range. It's crazy for me that he's asking for that type of money when you've proved nothing. So go if you want that sort of money, go sign a 1-year deal with the likes of the Roosters, Panthers, Melbourne. Build your game and then prove yourself. Then ask for that money for your next contract. Then shop around to the likes of the Doggies, or back to the Tigers, the Eels, who will probably pay for you then, because you've got that experience, that grunt about you now, to the point where you're worth that money. So that's what I think on that. You're 100% right. Tarpany is one that I would buy over him in a heartbeat for less money.
100%, bro. 100%. And even like, players like I rate highly, like a Griffin Neem. Like, there's other players out there that have showed probably more consistent footy over time. It's just the only thing with him is obviously he's shown like those sparks of special. But like, you only see them every so often and you don't see him ever again. And whether that's the Tigers or not, it would probably be better for him to get away from the Tigers to see what his potential actually is. But at the moment, we're going off what we see out there at the moment. I wouldn't be paying 800K for him just yet. He's still like a unhidden, like he could be a Tavita Pangai Jr. You just never know, really. You know what I mean? He could be a good comp for him at the moment. Just obviously doesn't talk as much as Tavita Pangai Jr. So
yeah, well, that dude runs his mouth nonstop. So, but he's been backing it up for the Dolphins. I got to give him that.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on the Dolphins. Like, I know before, like, this, I was thinking they were probably the team that were going to slide out of the 8. I still think they're probably the only team that I'm looking at the moment that have the chance to slide out of the 8 to really make way to someone in the 8. Your thoughts on the Dolphins? Because they had a pretty solid performance against the Panthers over the weekend there. Like, I know the Panthers were missing a lot of players out too, but Nathan Cleary did come back. They looked really, really red hot. Do you reckon they'll be able to hold into that top 8 discussion? I know we'll talk more about it next week when we do a ladder prediction, but your thoughts on the Dolphins at the moment, the way they're tracking?
Yeah, they've got a stronger run home. So I think everybody's, got them thinking that they're a lot better than they are. And that's not saying that they're not a good team this year. They are. But, they had a pretty light run up till this point of the season. Now we start to see them play, the heavyweights of the competition. But the amount of points that team has in them, that back line, the form that Isaiah Katoa and Nicarima ran, really complement their outside backs and the form that they're in. And Adam Pangai adds that bit of spice to them through the middle. The Dolphins are definitely capable of it, and they showed that on the weekend. But as you said, that wasn't a full-strength Panthers team, and they still, came away with the Chockies. But they did look so good in attack. They just got to tighten up their defense a little bit, and I reckon they can blow teams away because they've got a lot of points in them, especially now that the Hammers' origin duties are done. And he's solely focused, back on the Dolphins. That's a sight to see. So,
yeah, 100%, bro. And then also shout out before we touch on Nathan Cleary, Trey Fuller getting the top 30 for the Dolphins now. Finally gets a top 30 contract. So obviously, I spoke to you about this. Apparently, the rumor is out there about him. He doesn't want to move from Redcliffe, and he's like actually turned down NRL contracts to stay at Redcliffe. Like, how crazy that, like, obviously that doesn't benefit him when he goes to the contract table and says like, I want money. And they'll be like, well, you're not going to go anywhere, are you? So I'm going to really offer you less. But like the loyalty and like how good of he is as a player. Like, he's an incredible little fullback to have to back up with the Hammers out in general. Like, your thoughts on Trey Fuller before we move on?
Yeah, it's a bit of Ben Barber vibes, isn't it? Like the typical smaller build, but so flashy,
Yeah.
And, like he's probably happy to be in a hometown. He probably never thought he ever actually got to crack, NRL. And he's probably thankful for the Dolphins for giving him that. And that's probably why he doesn't want to move away from them. So, he's probably on a good 200K a year. Who's going to sneeze at that to play footy? He's probably going to fill in most of the time when the Hammer's away or there's a couple of injuries. But, he'll probably find himself playing Q Cup and he'll be on a nice 200K contract or so. And fuck, I'll take that. If it meant just staying at the Dolphins and paying my respect to the club that gave me that opportunity. And with the fullbacks we're seeing come through the competition, there's probably not a lot of interest out there anyway for him. And that's not saying that he's not a good fullback, but, a lot of clubs do have their, their set fullback and they've got the development fullback already on their way through. So, he could fill in nicely to a club, but you got, Fa'alongo for Melbourne, who hasn't even got a starting spot, and he's probably, a bit higher than Trey Fuller just. But, good on Trey Fuller for honouring the club that gave him a crack, finally. And that's great. We need more than that, more of that in the game where guys are, respectful of their contracts and their clubs. And it's not all about money. So it brings so much joy back to a club and being a fan, the loyalty that players show their club. So.
Yeah, he's a freak, man. A well-deserved top 30, bro. Like, as I said, if there was anyone out there that deserved a top 30 squad for a spot, it'd be Trey Fuller and get a contract there 100%. With the Dolphins. But I want to touch on Nathan Cleary, bro. You obviously saw the massive field goal to win that game there. Like, your thoughts on Nathan? Like, I know you've probably said everything. Everyone's said everything. He's an absolute freak of nature. Like, but Nathan Cleary, bro, he just continues to add to that story he's writing currently right now. Like, is obviously maybe a little bit too early to say he's one of the best halfbacks of all time, but I'll probably say he'd have to be around there when he finishes up career, bro. Like, what's your thoughts on Nathan?
Yeah, look, he's a freak of nature. Like, we've touched on it before, off camera, a little bit on camera. that NRL halves don't really find their form or you know, their consistency till, you know, their late 20s. Then they have their prime, their good run. Nathan Cleary's just hit the ground running since he hit NRL, and he hasn't stopped. You know, despite the injury, you know, coming back to do the performance that he had on the weekend, not only the field goal alone, but the performance he had, it just controlled the team so well. It's just unreal. It's just crazy to see what Nathan Cleary is going to be. The team constantly changes around him. Players leave every year from the Panthers, and he still just soldiers on, you know, and that's a shout out to Luai as well again. It'll be interesting again to see him with a sole new 5'8" partner next year, whoever that will be with Luai leaving. But yeah, just interesting to see, you know. But yeah, Nathan Cleary, man, he's got to definitely already go down in the books of being one of the best halfbacks ever. And that's hard to say, you know, because times have changed. The way that the game is played has changed. But yeah, just what he delivers as a halfback and the control he has over a team is unreal. And for him to nail a 40-meter field goal off a flat pass from dummy half, not worried about the pressure, like that's incredible. Normally you're seeing them stand 10 meters back and they'll still shank it with all the time in the world. But he's just like, yeah, I'll catch it flat and I'll just pop this over. No trouble at all. And, you know, the Dolphins should have knew it was coming, but I don't know, it's like they just wanted him to have his moment. Like, here you go.
He has time, bro. It's just the craziest thing. Remember Parramatta, that game he kicked the ball out and then from 40 out just snaps it, just goes, yep, I'll do this for you boys, and end up losing that game anyway. But like, just it shows the mentality of the bloke, and he's really stepped up his game from all the naysayers saying that he couldn't have an origin moment or he needs one of those big moments. He has his grand final moment that year. He started to get these clutch games back to back to back, all these big moments that you, at the end of the career, a lot of kids that will grow up loving Nathan Cleary would go, like the same thing I have with Sean Johnson is like, do you remember the game that, you know, Nathan Cleary 40 out against the Dolphins, just bang, while they were getting beat like 14 points at halftime, like, you know, like crazy, bro. He's a freak of nature, and he definitely needs look, I think he gets all the respect he deserves too, but like I do also think that he gets a lot of hate as well for, like, you know, saying that, people saying that he's not that good and that people want to find something wrong with him, and that's just the way it is. But he's an absolute freak, bro, an absolute freak. 100%. And last little question on Nathan too, like I know again I'll probably be getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but Australian number 7, would it be Nathan Cleary this year?
Yeah, who else would it be? You know,
Mitchell Moses
is gone now. He's gone now with the bicep.
Oh yeah, he's gone for the season. Yep.
Yeah, well, whether he is or not, you know, maybe people just doesn't want to play for Parramatta. I wouldn't either, but nah, look, yeah, I think even if Moses was fit and Cleary was fit, depending definitely how the back end of the season goes, but yeah, Cleary's number 7 if they're both fit.
Yeah.
Moses
and probably captain, would you reckon? Would you give him a captaincy in the Australian jersey?
It's hard. That's hard because, you know, it depends who else you pick in there, you know, because he only co-captains Penrith with Isaiah Yeo, and, you know, Isaiah Yeo is probably going to be in the Kangaroos as well. You know, then you're going to have, I don't know, Munster.
Depending on if Teddy or Edwards too, that's a discussion probably for the end of the year. I think Teddy's been in good club form, but obviously Edwards, what he did in Origin and that too. Like, there's a lot of discussions out also as well, but yeah, he's definitely, his name should be up there though, wouldn't you reckon?
And then you got Cam Murray, you know, he'll probably be captain as well. When and if he's picked, you know, Paddy Carrigan could be a captain mentality. Yeah, there's so many you could pick. There's going to be like 6 club captains in that team. More than likely.
That's crazy. So. Hopefully we beat the Kiwis at the end of this year. I know I'm a Warriors fan, but, you know, guys, you all know, like, I'm an Aussie boy. So when that comes time, you guys get excited. It's going to be some mad banter in the chat. It's going to be so sick. Before we jump off this one too, for the weekend, that was the Broncos getting a nice win over the Newcastle Knights. You obviously want to see more out of the Broncos now before you're going to say they're back. But obviously Adam Reynolds definitely changed a lot in that squad now. What's your thoughts there quickly?
I want to see less on the Broncos this week, but I'm a bit worried for it, to be honest. Look, Adam Reynolds was outstanding. You know, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I know he's very injury ridden, but I guess he's a halfback that's going to go down as, you know, mediocre. Whereas if he had an injury-free season, injury-free career, who knows what Adam Reynolds could have been. You know, he could have been the Blues half for the last 6 years. You know, he could have been defining all the odds again with his size, the control, and and the respect he has of that Broncos team. They're a 10 with him. They're about a 4 without him. And that just showed on the weekend. As much as Reece Walsh's game was really good on the weekend, I think it all comes off Adam Reynolds creating that time and space and really just mellowing out the Broncos to just get into that arm wrestle, whereas it's all not flash and electric and lightning. It's just that constant turnover. And as a Doggies fan, I am really worried for the weekend's game with what the Broncos did show and what I know they're capable of with the full strength squad and Adam Reynolds back in that pack. It's going to be a real test on our defense again. So I'm interested to see how that goes.
All right, my bro. Let's get into some overrated, underrated, fairly rated, my bro. What names you got to throw up? This is Brodie's favorite segment. I absolutely love this segment. It's pretty cool. So, what's your thoughts, bro? Who you got?
Yeah, look, I didn't actually put this together until about 20 minutes before the live stream. So I'm going to start off with Dommy Young. What are your thoughts on Dommy Young? I know it's a tough one. It's easy to say, he's a good player, but is he just really good as a guy that catches and puts the ball down? I know he does some freaky things, but what is your thoughts?
I would say I'd say overrated, but maybe in that fairly rated sort of part to it. Like, I've seen some incredible things out of him, as you kind of just touched on, but I feel like there was a lot of people saying out there he would turn into the best winger in the competition, but he still needs to do quite a bit more to become that, in my opinion. So for me, he'd be overrated, in between overrated and fairly rated, you know what I mean? Probably tipping the overrated scale on that. But like, as you said, like, he does some freakish thing. It's not, questioning the way he plays football. He just still has errors in his game. He still has those moments where he just turns off. Like you saw over the weekend against the Melbourne Storm, Grant Anderson absolutely burnt him out of nowhere. And it's just like, he has those moments in him where you just like, you see Roosters fans, remember we were in Magic Round, bro, and you had the Roosters fans like, shaking their head to some of the stuff he was doing out on the field. They were kind of like, he always does this. And I see that all the time in the comment section. So I'd probably say a little bit overrated at the moment, but I can see him growing into like what everyone says he is. Just needs time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He's only, 2 or 3 seasons into his NRL career now. That's crazy.
Exactly.
So, Braden Trindle, brother. Cabo boy.
Cabo boy. I would say underrated.
Yeah.
He's underrated, tipping into that fairly rated. The only reason why I would say underrated is because I probably even had the same thought too. As soon as Nico Hines went down, I feel like everyone would have said just the Sharkies will completely drop out of the 8. I've heard a lot of that chat. But then you see over the weekend, the system that the Sharkies run, as we touched on before that game, it prefers a predominant 7 and a 6 that's just going to run the ball or be that second fiddle. And he prefers to be a number 7. So he likes to have the ball in his hands, got a really nice kicking game. He's got a very instinctual game as well. So like, I like that out of him. The only thing he needs to fix up on, he does miss a ton of tackles as well. Like, that's really due to his smaller body and stuff. But I'd say that not a lot of people would probably say that he's an amazing halfback. So I'd say probably, I don't think he's amazing, but you know what I mean? Like, I'd say underrated on that sort of sense of my own.
Underrated. 100%. Would you say the Sharks are kind of going to have a bit of a moment like the Warriors, where SJ went down and Braden Trindle got to play his type of footy? Sort of like, Terrari Martin got to play his type of footy. Same as like Hines going down and now Trindle getting to be that 7. Do you see sort of the same pattern there, I guess you would say?
Yeah, and I think I've seen it for a lot of teams this year, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you put too many of the same thing, it probably doesn't suit your attack or whatever as much as what you think it is. Like, your system's built for a reason. Like, with the Warriors, our system was built in the offseason for Sean Johnson to be the sole playmaker there and Luke Metcalf just to chime in when he needs to and play off moments. And that's really what he is. Where, the Sharkies, like, Nico Hines loves his hand on the ball. We've seen it. He dictates short sides. He runs open side shifts. He does everything for that side. And what Matty Moylan used to do was be that second fiddle to wherever you need me, bro, I'll play like a second fullback sort of look. And we spoke about this before, is that 5-back is becoming more of that second fullback look with the fullback posting up on one side of the field and that 5'8" is dictating the other side of the field, playing out the back of shape. So I agree. I think that's exactly what it is. I think that they're going to have a little bit of form there, having a sole halfback directing the show and not having too many chefs really in the kitchen saying, this is where we're going to go. This is where we're going to go. I think that's definitely, where it's going to happen for the Sharkies.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The next one, man, I've swung my vote on this a few times, but I used to think, he was shit, and now I'm like, he's pretty underrated. He's been given it a good crack. Is Billy Walters.
Yeah, again, I'm with you, bro. Like I think he's underrated, and like again with you, I thought he was really overrated when he first was like in the 9 jersey for for the Broncos. He did a lot of silly things. He still does have those moments of doing silly things, but what he did to us in that preliminary final against the Warriors, that's like I was like, out of all players I was worried about, like he was so far down the list, and he ended up being one of those special guys. Probably not having his best season this season, but I still think he offers a lot in that number 9 role. And the one thing you can't question is his effort's always going to be there. Like he's just one of those guys that plays with a ton of heart and effort. He may not do always the smartest thing on a football field, but you know he's going to be there for 80 minutes or more if you need him to. So I would say as that, he would be underrated, because I don't think a lot of people actually rate him these days anymore from what he was before.
No, I think he's actually probably been one of the Broncos' most consistent all year. You know, like I watched them the last 3 games before the one on the weekend. You know, and I'm watching them a bit more closely now because my missus decided she's a Broncos supporter, and I know you have to break up with her. But nah, straight up, no, just kidding. I've watched Billy Walters a bit closer in the games where the Broncos are struggling, and you know, he's been a shining light, I guess. You know, he's trying an attack. He's trying to be creative without Reynolds there. And it made me like tip my hat to him a bit more on his gameplay. So yeah, I definitely got to say underrated as well there. So
yeah, no, I agree, bro. I agree.
Will Warbrick. I don't know if I've done him.
I don't think you have. No, I don't think you have. I really don't know with Will Warbrick. I would say at the moment fairly rated, because I see shining lights out of him, but I've also like I see just him go missing a lot. Like, you know, when the Melbourne Storm go incredibly well, like it's sometimes just like, oh, did Will Warbrick play? Like, how many tries has he scored? That sort of stuff. But I've seen some games where he looks like an absolute phenom down that sideline there too, but just not enough to be like you're underrated, bro. Like I think at the moment people just expect what he is, and he is what he is at the moment. He probably grow into a great player, but at the moment I can't say he will. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I agree. If it really came down to it, would you have Farlongo on the wing, or would you have him on the wing? I'll probably just edge him maybe, but if you're trying to fit into a Farlongo, I wouldn't push back for you being like drop Will Warbrick and put Farlongo on the wing. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's my thoughts on him at the moment.
No, I completely agree. Jaden Campbell.
Underrated, could be fairly rated, mainly on the fact of like I think injury is the only thing that can hold that man back. Like when he's out in the football field, he's incredible. He's actually growing a lot as a 6, where I didn't think he was a 6. I was like, no way. And I still think he can be found out as 6 defensively, being a smaller body, and that he probably need to work on that. But how can I say that against that 60-point smashing of our team, and like defensively he held into that contest with Murata near Cordair running at him pretty much 5 to 6 times in that game, and he held his own. So and he's just got that, he's got Preston Campbell, like his dad, all over him, bro. Like he's got those moments out of him. So yeah, exactly. And like that's where I'll probably have him underrated, to where like, you know, I think there's chat around him, but I don't think there's enough chat to be like anything crazy. Like, would you say he'd be in contention for Origin at all? Like, I don't even know if he'll go Blues and Maroon. That's how far I would go. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't think he'll be Origin. Nah, I don't think he will be. I think, you know, you got guys that are already coming through that are around his age bracket that I've got to edge in front of him. You know, whether it's Sam Walker, Ethan Strange, you know, all those type of guys that will probably get the nod over him for an Origin jersey before him. But I would love to see him back at fullback for a good club, maybe like the Roosters.
Yeah.
You know, Roosters aren't a good club. I fucking hate saying that, but
yeah, I know, right?
imagine him playing fullback for like the Roosters. You know, with youngie Sam Walker going well in the next few years, or no, you know, put him at the back of Melbourne. You know, or the Panthers. You know, he'll look good. You know, and that's not saying he's not a 5'8", but I think he is really good at fullback.
I do agree.
That free pass. You know, he killed you guys last year in that game we watched at Skilled Park as well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, he was a freak out back. And you could probably say that for all 3 of those boys at the Titans. You know, Keanu Keeney's incredible there too.
Oh, he's incredible too.
AJ Brimson as well. You know, I think AJ is still probably their best fullback at the club, but the injuries are the things that hold that man back. And it's pretty similar with Jaden Campbell too. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing that pushes me to fairly rated is like, I feel like hopefully he can get over this injury run, because I feel like injuries will hold him back from his actual potential. And that's why I sway more so to underrated, is his potential is so high. And I still think he can get to that.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And I think they're just trying to get all their good players on the field at any given time, the Titans. And I think Des knows he's not going to win a premiership this year, so he's trying to just build combinations. So, yeah, I think it's a good move that they're the direction that those guys are heading in. So, yeah,
Agreed, bro.
Titans in the next few years. So, next one is, I know where this one's going to go, but Sean Lane.
Sean Lane overrated at the moment. Yeah, 100%. I and you know this, I bought him on Supercoach to start this year, and I thought he was going to have a massive, like, bounce back season. He was sitting cheap on Supercoach, but the fall in his career, like, he's been obviously at both of our clubs, and like, he had decent moments for us before he left, but like, again, like, he ended up going to you guys, and I think injuries were the thing that held him back for you guys there too, right? From memory. And then going to the Parramatta Eels, and he had moments of, like, the year before he looked incredible in that edge back row role, but now I don't know if he has the heart. Like, I don't want to question a man's heart that's playing in like the NRL and that, but like, that's the one thing that holds him back for me, is like the
100%.
work rate, getting in there, doing the hard stuff. Like, that's the thing that holds me back with Sean Lane. I feel like sometimes he can look like a big Gumby edge back rower out there for, you know, so that's just my thoughts on him. Overrated.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Appy Coruscant, I know he's not having the best year at the Tigers, but what's your thoughts on Appy?
That's why I would probably say underrated, is like, probably going to the Tigers has really cost him an Origin jersey. Then again, I would have thought Reece Robson probably would have been picked anyway for the style of football Madge wanted to play, maybe.
Yeah,
but like, if you're still playing at Penrith, I reckon it would be really, really hard to make that decision, because he would be absolutely braining it at Penrith, and he would definitely be the first name on the team sheet, when you reckon. So I think he's definitely underrated. And for what he's trying to do at the Tigers, I got to give him a ton of credit, because like, week in, week out, he is their best player, and he's trying to hold up a whole organization that's just been broken and bruised for fucking that many years. So shout out to Appy Coruscant. He's definitely a name I'm watching this weekend against us.
Yeah, and he'll be outstanding next year, getting Luai and a bit of help there. So that's exciting to see.
It'd be freakish.
I've got 3 left. I've got AJ Brimson, and he touched on him a little bit before.
Yeah, underrated, bro. Mainly because I think that if we see a consistent stint out of him, I think a lot of people will start to see how good he actually is at fullback. As I said, he's kind of like my pocket Teddy. Like, he's you could probably call him like a Teddy from Wish. Like, he does a lot of things, everything that Teddy does, but probably not to the highest level. And I think injuries have held him back from that. I just love him as a footballer, bro. He's always he always competes, and that's why, like, no matter what, he always trying to find his way back into a Titans jersey, whether it's in the centers, a 6, or a fullback. He's got to find his way there somewhere, but injuries are the only thing holding that man back, bro. So I can understand if a lot of people think that he may be fairly rated or overrated for that, but for me, underrated, because I know the potential he could be.
Well, just quickly on that, do you think he's a center? Do you think he should persist at going for center?
I don't think he's a center. I think his best position is fullback, but probably his best position to fight his way into this Titans system too, because they got a lot of fullbacks, and like, just their halves situation and stuff is probably either playing 6 or even having to play center. But yeah, just due to injury, you know what I mean? Like, that's his biggest thing. I still think he's a fullback though.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking more so for like potential Queensland selection. He's probably not going to get the nod at fullback, but you guys are lacking in that, center selection. So, if he proved himself at center, he could potentially be one. I know he's not a lot of height, size, or anything like that, or strength, but he offers so much in attack. If he, absolutely killed it at center next year, if the Titans put him there, do you look at him for center for Queensland? He's played Queensland before at the back, when you guys had a bit of injuries and a bit of a rough team to pick from, but he did an absolute amazing job at fullback when he played those couple of games.
Yeah, I wouldn't push back on it. Like, just knowing the type of player he is, I know he will probably make it work. He's very much a similar mold to probably a Valentine Holmes or a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck given a crack at center. Like, they're probably more preferred to be fullbacks. But like, for the team that they're running in and what they really want to make it out with due to probably injury or age or, just the way the situation is at those clubs, them playing center may be the best opportunity for them to find a spot. And he definitely has Origin written all over him if he plays consistent football there. The other name I want to throw up there too, like Philip Sami too. Like I rate Philip Sami so highly. I really do, bro. Like, what's your thoughts on Philip Sami? Is he overrated, underrated, fairly rated?
Look, I think he's probably fairly rated. You know, there's a bit of hype around him, mainly more so for his speed. But I think the rest of his game doesn't get talked about enough.
Yep.
And he's been a bit of a shining light for the Titans there over the last few years. I think if you get consistent halves and a consistent spine in that Titans team, he would benefit his game a lot more. If he went to a team, you know, like the Rabbits on a position on the left edge, or you know, Melbourne or Roosters and Panthers again, you know, they're the big three names. But you put him into a system like that, and he would potentially be, you know, top 5 player in that position for that year. You know what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
yeah, if he had a consistent spine around him at the Titans, and hopefully they get that next year, you know, that bit more, you know, of an injury-free season where they can really build for something with Hasler, you will see the best out of Philip Summer yet. He's still so young, but I think he's definitely underrated.
Yeah, he could definitely fight his way back into an Origin contention as well if that center role is up for it. I probably sway more so that he is a winger that is playing center at the moment for a position, but like I still think he does a great job at center there too. So, you know, that's on that thing. And like before you jump onto the other one, Brian Kelly, what's your thoughts on Brian Kelly? Is he overrated, underrated, fairly rated?
I think he's fairly rated. You know, he's got signs there that he could, you know, be something great, but he, again, doesn't deliver all the time. But, you know, his work rate's really good. I kind of tie in Brian Kelly with a bit of a Jesse Ramian type, you know, kind of the same mold. You know, they'll do the hard work. They've got a potential line break in them. They position their winger really well, you know, but they're no, you know, Latrell Mitchell or Joey Manu. You know, they're not the elite of the elites, but, you know, they're there, that middle range, you know. And Brian Kelly, he's in between that low and middle range. You know, he does a lot of things well, but then he just goes missing. You know, he won't create something for himself, but he, you know, he's a good role player there. And if the Titans are on a high, he's normally at the forefront of it as well. So,
one of the better. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The last two I've got is Bradman Best. You know, he's an elite center, and he's really proving that. So, what's your thoughts on him? Do you think he's underrated, overrated?
I would probably say fairly rated because I think a lot of people are coming around to he is the elite center in the 100%. Competition now. You know what I mean? I feel like at the start of his career, I would have swayed the way of overrated because I felt like he got given the stick of being that next generation center that was absolutely incredible, and you just didn't see it early on just because he was so young and he had moments that he had to learn from. I feel like he's learned from those moments now, and he's really stepped up into that player that's just like a consistent player you have to watch on that team list every week. Like when we go up against the Newcastle Knights, you just know that that left side is just everything you got to worry about. KP, Braden Best, Greg Marshew is just like those names together, and he's an absolute freak, bro. The speed he has for the size he has is just on a different level. We were talking about athletes before. He's an athlete, bro. Like he's one of the better athletes I've seen. 100%, bro. That neck on him too. He's got that Mike Tyson neck. Like it's on a different level. Like,
He built.
Freakish.
And the last one I've got is Dean Mariner.
It's tough because I would say fairly rated right now. And would fray to underrated a little bit. I just want to know what everyone's thoughts on Dean Mariner is at the moment to really go with like whether he's overrated, underrated. Do you reckon he gets a lot of people say he's probably the best winger in the competition? I don't really see that a lot.
No,
I would probably say that
overrated. I don't know if it's us being in Brisbane and it's the Brisbane media that we hear more so of.
Could be that.
I don't know what it's like the vibes are with him as an NRL whole comp. But with the hype that the Broncos have around him, he hasn't shown that for me yet. You know, he's scored some good tries, some good solo tries, but so is AKP. And I think he's still tempering that overrated. So I think he's sort of that type of mold to me at this stage. But the talent is there to definitely live up to the hype that, you know, those two players have around them. But in this case, I'm saying, Dean at the moment for me is overrated. But that's hard to say because, you know, the Broncos have been struggling this year as well. Whereas if he was in the team that played last year, you'd probably say, oh, yeah, he's fairly rated. You know, the hype is there. So,
yeah, he's a freak and like probably goes off the back of what I just said for Braden Best is probably like he's been given the because I've hyped him as well. Like from what I've seen at Q Cup, I think this guy's an absolute freak of nature and he has the ability to be incredible. But like when he first came into comp, he's just got to get to the point to live it up every week in, week out. And the only thing he needs to change, he's got a little bit of errors in his game. He'll have those moments very similar to that complete Broncos side to where they want to score from every point of the field. But his speed, his tackle break ability, and his try scoring ability still, like for a team that had struggled in moments this year, I think he's still up there for top 5 try scorer in a year. I think he's up around that range, and he scores the first try in every Broncos game that I've seen. Like, he's got that ability, but that's probably where I'll probably lean to fairly rated. Because yeah, I agree with you. Like, I feel like in the Brisbane media, you probably say that he is like, you know, a lot of people rate him. But when I see online, I don't really see a lot of people in comment sections online saying that he's like the greatest winger of all time either. So that's why I probably like, I think he's fairly rated. Still needs time to grow. He'll be something special in the future if he keeps going. That's the whole thing. If he keeps going.
100%. It's his first year in NRL. You know, killing it in Q Cup is one thing, but the jump up to NRL level is another. So he'll find that consistency once he has that year develop. And he's been bounced between the center and the wing. I think the Broncos has got to find that sweet spot for him and leave him there and let him grow. And then he'll definitely, you know, live up to the hype that is around him. But, you know, solely going off just the form he's been in, the season he's having compared to the hype, I have to lean towards that overrated. But he's definitely
100%.
shown the talent there is all the hype around him. So I definitely think, you know, next year we'll be having a completely different conversation and we'll be saying he's probably top 5 center in the game or wing in the game for that season. So it's just, we'll see. We'll see what happens. He's so young, so young.
Yeah, I agree with you, bro. Like, I think the best comp, as you brought out, is AKP. Like, I feel like AKP is a game breaker, but he's also can be a game loser at the moment. You know what I mean? There's been moments this year where, well, even like years past, like last year, I just know that the best like kicking option you want to go down for the Titans, put a bomb up in AKP's corner, and you could be a 50-50 chance an error is going to come your way and you're going to score off it, or he's going to like catch it, break a first tackle,
100.
and sprint down the end of the field. So he's one of those sort of players, and I think D Mariner's in the exact same sort of range. He's got the speed to burn, can break a game open, but he also can be the reason why you probably lost that game as well.
100%. That's all I've got, brother.
Sweet, my bro. Let's jump into our Punters Paradise of the weekend, my man. So first, a game of the weekend. Oh, before we jump into it, guys, as always, we're going to be talking about betting here. So please gamble responsibly. Don't be a dickhead out there. Please set gambling limits if you need to. And also, just don't go crazy on your gambling, as we all know. First game of the weekend, brother, we got the Warriors versus the West Tigers. This game is in Auckland, obviously our home stadium there. Big out, or, you know, decent outs, Adam Pompey and Tane Tuapiki, but that does mean Roger Tuivasa-Sheck plays fullback for a full game in this one here. Ed Gossie comes into the wing to fill in that spot for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and Moala Graham Talfa fills in that center role for Adam Pompey. On the opposite side, we still have no Adam Dewey. Aiden Caesar's out due to suspension. John Bateman, no David Clemmer is in this side at all. So Stafford Tyre comes back into the side, so pretty interesting in there. And Latu Fainu at number 7. What's your thoughts on this game overall, and what's your tips for this game overall, my bro?
Yeah, I just quickly want to touch base on the 2 weeks ago from our last live stream. If anybody got on the round bet that I put on, it got up. So I don't know if anybody jumped on that. It was the Dolphins head-to-head, Sione Katoa anytime, the Titans 1-12, Broncos or Dragons 1-12, Turbo anytime. I was sweating on that Turbo one until he came through with that kick chase and got it up. So that was paying $23. So I don't know if anybody jumped on that one, but I sure hope there was a couple of winners that weekend.
100%, my bro.
100% on that one, and I actually put Dolphins 1-12 in my multi, and it ended up being $53 odds. So I got a little bit of an extra there. So that turned out really well for me. So I turned a tenner into 530. But yeah, for this game coming up, I do see the Warriors winning. Not just because their season's on the line or anything like that. I just think, you know, the Tigers are struggling. And I see you guys, you know, wanting to get that win at home. There's a lot of pressure on you guys, but I reckon the cream will rise to the top. I do see you guys winning. And I think the nice little bet that I put on this one was I've got you guys just getting over the line. I think the Tigers will put up a pretty good fight. So I went, I went the Wars 1-12. I went Lockie Galvin and Tuari Martin to score anytime, and that's $31 odds. And that's on any league fail, so get your money back. So I'll be whacking a tenner on that one for sure, just in case.
100%, my brother. And I'm going to follow you in there. I'm going to go Warriors. I think I predicted last night a 28-16 sort of game. I think the Tigers will hold into some sort of a contest here, because, again, like they had a somewhat decent showing in the first half of that game against the Rabbitohs, then got blown out completely late. Defensively has been their biggest issue. I think their last 4 games has blown out, plus 40 points been put against them. So that's really the effort, the areas that they need to watch out on. I'm curious to see Latu Fainu in that 7 role. well. He's got a lot of hype around him. And obviously, you know, Dream Buller backing up of some of the moments he had last week as well. But I think having Roger Tuivasa-Sheck at fullback and, you know, him probably running for a good 250, and that should be enough to get us home if we play off the back of that. So we just need to go back to the football that we know and love, is this hard defensive football, and just play strong through the middle. Like, that's the best way we play football. So I'm going Warriors 1-12 with you, my man.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. All right.
Next game, we got the Parramatta Eels versus the Melbourne Storm, and this is at CommBank. Brother, not too many ins and outs in this game. Is CommBank enough of a fortress to hold out the Melbourne Storm, even due to the Parramatta Eels being absolutely awful this season?
Nah, I'm going the Storm with a minus 8.5.
Love that, bro. I'm following you in on that, bro. I think, yeah, the Melbourne Storm will probably do a decent number. It's, the only thing that kind of worries me about this game is just Melbourne. They've been, they're on a decent winning streak at the moment. 9-1 at home. Was it at, obviously they're 14-3, they're on top of the ladder. Like, so whether there's a dead cat bounce coming, who knows? But yeah, I can't see Parramatta doing it against a decent looking, you know, Cam Munster's back for the Melbourne Storm by the looks of it too. He's sitting
in the reserves
at
the moment, but yeah, he will be back, and Wishart will play that bench role.
Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see. Next game, we got the big game this weekend, probably your biggest game this weekend, my brother. The Broncos versus the Doggies at Suncorp Stadium. Not too many outs. You got Chris Patolo out in this matchup here. Obviously, the Broncos named back full strength. I know they got all their players back last week as well, but Selwyn Cobbo comes back on the wing. Your thoughts on this matchup, my bro? Do you think you'll have enough to get it over the Broncos at Suncorp? I know you're worried about this game a little bit.
Yeah, look, I've been worried for the last 4 weeks. In my opinion, we haven't looked good attack wise since the Parramatta game. You know, we were very lucky to get, you know, the Sharks win. We're fucking extremely lucky to beat the Warriors. You know, and then it really showed on the weekend that our attack wasn't where it needs to be on the weekend. You know, against the Sharks, we scored 2 fairly lucky tries. Against you guys, we scored an intercept and off a kick. And then our 2 tries on the weekend were off kicks. We haven't scored a set play try that looked great to me since the Parramatta game. And, you know, the Bulldogs' defense has been outstanding, especially on their own line. But we give other teams so many opportunities to score on our own line. And the Cowboys did that one better than us. And, you know, you could make a case, you know, that could have been a try for Bailey Hayward. I think his hand didn't come away from the ball and was still touching the ball when it hit the ground. But it definitely was a loose carry. But the rules are that if your hand doesn't come away from the ball, you don't need to regrip it. And it didn't come away from the ball when it touched the ground. But I'm not going to make a case there. You know, we got the penalty. We decided to take the 2 instead of backing up again, which again is us lacking not
the
backing
confidence in your attack.
Defense. Yeah. And, you know, that was a 2-point to a 4-point lead. That was fucking stupid, in my opinion. So we really lost that game for ourselves. And it was just, you know, it was coming after the couple of get away with the points that we got in the 2 games, the Sharks, the Warriors. So I think if we invite the Broncos onto our line as much as we have with other teams, the Broncos are going to make us pay a lot. So I think the Broncos are going to beat us. We play like shit at Suncorp at the best of times, let alone that. The pressure on the Broncos and the bit of the roll on they got now with all their players back. I do see this one being a bit of a scary scoreline. I think the Broncos will beat us minus 8.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of signing to the Broncos as well in this one, but I do think it's going to be fair. Like I can see this one can be fairly close if you guys are able to hold in that defensive, like, you know, that you've got, and be able to have moments to where you could, like, you know, turn the contest. Kind of very similar to what the Broncos sort of did against the Parramatta Eels. Probably not so much of like going full field tries, but like, you know, to the ability of like, you know, critters turnover, like, you know, getting interceptions, stuff like that. Like Reece is going to be slinging that ball left, right, and center. You got probably one of the best intercepting centers in the league at the moment with Stephen Crichton. But it could go 50-50 there too. As you said, like, you know, they could strip you multiple times and really make you pay there too. So I'm going to sway the Broncos, but I do think that you'd be able to hold it to a 1-12 contest, because I don't think you've been blown out once this season. I think you've held into pretty much every game that you've had from memory, unless it's the start of the season against Manly. I think that was the only game.
Roosters blew us away in that second game against them a little bit.
Second one,
you know, when Burton played center, but it wasn't a blown away. It wasn't too bad. But yeah, look, I think I would be a lot more confident if Reynolds wasn't playing, because I reckon if Reynolds doesn't play, that Broncos team goes to shit once you turn them away off
100%.
your line a couple of times. And I dare say we will turn them away a couple of times on our line, but the class of Adam Reynolds to get a repeat set there, and instead of letting them drop their heads and getting turned away and their attack going to mud, he will really steady his ship there and just keep them coming the whole game. And that's where I reckon they will crack us, because he just builds that pressure. So that's my only worry there. If Reynolds doesn't play, I reckon we have a really good chance at winning this game, but I think he will be the difference. So for me, if I was kick out, I would be going at Adam Reynolds all game. He's come out and said that bicep's at 60, 70%. Fucking run at him all game. Isolate him all game. Kick pressure him all game. Like, that is your job. That's your message to kick out, is fucking go after him, and we'll go a long way. Because I really think we'll struggle through the middle, with Max King out, especially. Josh Curran was incredible through the middle there on the weekend, but, Payne Haas, Paddy coming through the middle, it's just going to be a bit too much class, and I think we're going to struggle. So, but, I hope they shock me like they have most of the year. So we'll see. I'm excited to watch it nonetheless.
Exactly, bro. This could be definitely a game that could make your season as well. If you get over the top of the Broncos or Suncorp, that's just like another little piece to the puzzle now of you guys coming together as a club. So it's a big game for you in that sort of sense, but it's a big game for the Broncos as well, trying to fight back in for the 8, and I think that gives that extra spice to the Broncos as well there too. Moving on, we got the Cowboys versus the Sharks, bro, at Townsville. Not too many changes here in these lineups other than the debutant for the Sharkies. I haven't seen a lot of him, but Liam Ilson. Looks like a solid enough player. I've seen a little bit of highlights there on Instagram and stuff. I wouldn't say he would do anything more than what I think Will Kennedy is one of the better fullbacks in the league. So probably drops a little bit there. Do you think the Cowboys can continue off, beating yous last week, go again against the Sharkies, or do you reckon the Sharkies might be able to get a nice little upset here against the Cowboys team up at Townsville?
This to me is whoever scores the most points. They both defend like shit.
Yeah.
The Cowboys defended pretty well on the weekend, but our attack didn't offer much. So this is going to be a very high scoring game. I like Valentine Holmes staying to the wing again. But I haven't seen much of the young kid. I didn't know Will Kennedy was out until I just remembered that he got suspended for the most stupidest thing in the world.
Worst thing ever, bro.
But I think I'm going to lean towards the Sharks with the odds. I think everyone's buying into the Cowboys hype a little bit too much after beating us. So the Sharks at 225, I think that's good odds.
Yep. And I'm probably going to just sway the way of the Cowboys. I think at home, I think the Cowboys will probably try to replicate what they did last week and probably add towards that. And I think that Will Kennedy will be a little bit of a miss. It's obviously a debutant, as you said, you kind of didn't know that, Will Kennedy was out. I agree. That was the stupidest thing. If the referee's going to get in your way, bruh. But I think that would be a somewhat decent out for the Sharkies, where, you got Scotty Drinkwater and all those boys for the Cowboys. But I agree. It's whoever scores the most points, whoever gets up on the contest early, I think can really come home with the Chockies. And I think Townsville might be a little bit of a sway my way of the Cowboys, but it's a somewhat 50-50 game for me. And to see 224 for the Sharkies, probably a little bit more value on the Sharkies side of things too. So, but my tip's going the Cowboys way. Yeah,
I completely agree.
All right, my bro, we're going to go the Roosters versus the Seagulls. So obviously this is happening at Allianz. So it is a Roosters home game here, my brother. Not too many changes from the weekend here. Obviously, the Roosters coming off a beating from the Melbourne Storm, and, the Seagulls absolutely smashing the Titans. Do you think the Seagulls will be able to go 2 on the trot here, or do you reckon the Roosters will get back into the Roosters form and just absolutely dominate this side here?
I think this one's a game of the round, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think it'll be the most watched game. I think I'm going to lean towards the Roosters unless it's wet. Then I'm going the Seagulls, in all honesty. So I think I'll go the Roosters 1-12. I'm going to say maybe 1-6.
Yeah, and before doing the show, bro, I'll be completely honest with you. I had the Manly Seagulls as my tip, and then I changed it to the Chookies just before jumping on with y'all. That's where I sit with this game. And I think the biggest sway card is Tom Trbojevic. Like, if Tommy comes out and has Tom Trbojevic in him, I reckon he can win the game. But then again, you look at the opposite end, you got James Tedesco there too. So the fullback battle is just going to be incredible. Like, I agree, this could be game of the round. So I'm going to go to Chookies at home. But again, this is a 50-50 game for me. And seeing the Manly Seagulls at $3, there could be a little bit of value there too.
Yeah, well, you got to remember that Ola Kawatu's out, so Angus Crichton's going to terrorise DCE on that edge, and he's got no bodyguard there. You know, Ben Trbojevic played good on the weekend, but he played the left edge as well. So I don't know who they've got on that right edge, but I think it's Carl Lawton. Yeah, so I think Angus Crichton's going to have a field day, and DCE is going to be under a lot of pressure this weekend.
Yeah. I thought Carl Lawton had a really good game against Dave Fafita over the weekend, but it's the Titans, and like sometimes the Titans can't get him one-on-one. You know that the Roosters will be able to get Angus Crichton one-on-one there with Carl Lawton, so he's going to have a big night to fill there. Moving on, we got the Dragons versing the Panthers. I've touched on the Dragons. They are playing at WIN Stadium. The Dragons are such a good team at WIN Stadium. Everywhere else, they can be so inconsistent. Is it enough to beat the Penrith Panthers here with a lot of their origin contingents coming back? Brian Toto, obviously no Dylan Edwards still due to injury. He had a PCL tear in that origin. He had it pretty early on too. So shout out to Dylan Edwards, absolutely freak of nature to go out there with PCL tear and play throughout the whole origin. Where's your thoughts in this game, bro? Who are you swaying with? Do you think the Dragons will have enough at home, or do you reckon the Panthers just get back to doing the Panthers? I'm
going to roll with the Panthers. I really think the Dragons need to be on down that left edge with Moses Sully terrorizing Isaac Tango. And I think if they can do that, that's incredible. And then I also think they've got a bit of opportunity down that right edge, you know, with a little bit of Lomax jumping over Toto. That's interesting to see because Toto gives up a lot of height, but he's never been jumped over from what I can remember. So I'm really excited to see how they try and use him there. And then obviously you got the young Casey McLean in the centers there as well. You know, he's up against another young guy in Max Fiangai though. But I think Sully's the key here, and he's really got to terrorize Isaac Tungo. So we'll see how the Dragons can really unlock Sua and Sully down that left edge.
I'm excited for that.
We'll see what they can do there.
Yeah, my multi for this one, my brother, I got the St. George Dragons plus 13 and a half. So that gave me $1.70 on that. And then I tied it in with Moses Sully and Casey McLean. So those two names that you brought up in the paper, I love Casey McLean. I buy into the hype. He's got definitely a big future. Still, like he's still so young. Yeah. And then Moses Sully, bro. Yeah, 100%. Buy him on Supercoach. He's definitely thereabouts, bro. I think he had 2 weeks in a row of like plus 40s. And it's like, you know, he hasn't scored a try or anything yet. So he's yet to be big up there. But also Moses Sully, I think he's going to create a lot of havoc down Isaac Tungo's edge. So I got him head-to-head there. I hope so anyway. So I think he was at a $3 odds there too. So check that out.
What was that overall multi?
Overall, that gets me $16 odds. So chuck a $5 on it, gets you around $80.
Yeah,
so
nice. I like that.
Not too bad, my brother. So we both go on the Panthers though, probably head to head.
Yeah, Panthers head to head.
Yep. I like the Dragons with a head start though. I think they could. I don't know. We'll see how we go.
I reckon I'll keep it close.
Yep. All right, my bro. We got the Dolphins versus the Titans at Suncorp Stadium. A game we were going to go to, but we shifted it out to another game later on this year. But going to be a really good game in itself. Obviously, we know last year this was when the biggest comeback of all time happened. Was it 22 points or whatever? They came back a deficit to end up winning that game. The Dolphins. I think they had it last year. Yep. So that was a big game for them. Could the Titans come back and beat the Dolphins here and get vengeance for last year?
I think the Dolphins are going to win this one.
Yeah,
I think they'll win it. Maybe 1-12. But I can see them blowing it away depending on what Titans show up. But yeah, they have a lot of points in the Dolphins, and I think that if they get going pretty early, the Titans won't be able to run them down this year. They're a bit different this year.
Yeah, players like Herbie Farnworth, players like the Hammer, like they can really feast from multiple different parts of the field. I agree with you, bro. We're going to go to Dolphins together on that game. And lastly, we got the Raiders versus the Rabbitohs, which I actually think is going to be a fairly good, like, close game here. Obviously, the Rabbitohs are playing for their season still. Like, they still think they can make the 8. They're going to be playing like it. And the Raiders obviously getting a nice win over my Warriors last week. Probably, like, you know, oh, we probably should have won that game. But anyway, so top to bottom, fairly unchanged for both sides here. Your thoughts? Do you go on the Raiders at home, or are you going to go the Rabbits in a little bit of an upset due to the bookies?
Look, I went the Rabbits with a start. So head to head, who I think will win, I'm gonna lean towards the Raiders just. Only giving them the nod a little bit in that engine room. Just.
Agreed.
But the halves, K Weeks has been outstanding, even though he's been playing at the back. And Fogarty's back. Oh, look,
Fogarty's
it's really
been
tough.
Good.
Again, I think there'll be a lot of points in this one. I reckon the Rabbits get off to a 1 or 2 start. And then the Canberra Raiders will try and wrestle them back. So I'm gonna lean towards the Raiders just.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm just going to go the Raiders, and I think the big one that swayed me for here was probably Jamal Fogarty's kicking game. Like to start the year, he had one of the better kicking games in the competition, led their comp in kick meters, and that has a massive boot on him. Had injuries. We saw the Raiders fall apart with him not being in the lineup for a period there. Him getting back in there, I think he had an amazing game with the kicking boot over the weekend, put us in a lot of trouble, created a lot of errors. And when you got a couple of backline players, Jai Gray, incredible little fallback out there, but I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure with a lot of bombs that are coming off Fogarty's way. And when you got forwards that are chasing through like Joseph Tarpany and that, I agree. I think the upper hand in the forward pack is probably swaying the way of the Raiders. So I'm swaying the way of the Raiders, probably in a 1-12 sort of contest, but I do believe with you, it's probably going to be a decent scoring game. So, but if you like the Rabbits, $2.30, not too bad there. It probably could be a bit more of like $1.90 to $2 range, but that's just my thoughts overall. Going to go the Raiders there. Any last multis for the weekend, my brother?
Yeah. So my weekend multi is Warriors head to head. Storm -8.5, Broncos -8.5, Sharks head to head, Panthers head to head, Dolphins head to head, and Rabbits with a 13.5 start, and that's paying 24.51. I left out the Roosters Manly game just because, like you said, the line's not worth it there. I really think Manly could make it a close one, but I could see the Roosters running away with it, so it's not worth the value there for me. If anything, I might have gone a try scorer in that game. But yeah, I liked it with just the 7 legs with the 24.91. I can't post them up off my Facebook, man, but if you wanted to copy that message and post it in the comments of my bets for the week, and then add your one, and I think we'll roll with that, and we'll hopefully get somebody a bit of coin in their pocket this week.
Yeah, let us know, guys. Let us know if you get up this weekend on any of our multis that we're going to be producing for you. Lastly, before we go, you got a game on this weekend, my brother? Where you playing at? Shout it out.
Yeah, so we've got our last game of the season, and then we've got a bye next week for the final round of the season before heading into finals. The boys had a loss on the weekend. I had a weekend away. I'm not going to say that I was the reason they lost. We went down to North Lakes by 2 points. But which is sad.
2 points
for me,
you could have converted.
No, well, yeah, apparently there was a misconversion, but we're not going to put it down to that. We leaked too many tries by the sounds of it. So, but I hate losing to North Lakes. Well, I hate losing in general, but I hate losing to North Lakes because I used to play for them. So a bit of a rivalry there. But this weekend we've got Aspley at home, 3 o'clock game. So we will finish second or third despite winning or losing this weekend. So we'll hopefully win, get a bit of momentum leading into finals, and go from there.
100%, my brother. No, appreciate you coming through for another show, my man. Episode 6 of Down Unders, guys. Please let us know if you get up on any multis for the weekend. Also, gamble responsibly. Lastly, come into this weekend, bro. Up the doggies. What do you reckon? Up the doggies, up the wires?
Up the doggies forever, brother. Up the doggies forever. And up the wires, I hope they get back on the horse, man. We need one of our teams in the finals, so I don't want to go on the side, especially if you guys potentially miss it. So we need to barrack for somebody in the finals. And I've got a bit of a doggies collection jerseys there for you, brother, in case you need one for the finals, all right?
Appreciate you, my brother. Anyway, guys, enjoy your night. Appreciate you, Brody, for coming through again. Thank you so much, guys. Take it easy.
All the best, guys.